It's mystery box time once again, and when I tell you I am so nervous to open this box, that is an understatement, so we're gonna get right into it. You're watching Whiskey and Whit. My name is Whitney, and if this is your first time here because of the Mystery Box Challenge, welcome. Here I love to share all things DIY and budget home decor, so if that is something that interests you, be sure to hit subscribe before you leave so you won't miss any more Christmas content. So for this round, the whole thing, the Mystery Box Challenge, is hosted by one of my favorite people of all time, Courtney, over at Creative on the Cheap. She's been running this for almost 6 years. It is crazy that we've been doing it that long, and she has incorporated guest hosts. So one of us regulars gets to guest host, make up the rules each time. I got to do it earlier this year. This box is all thought up by Christina from Christina Elizabeth. So she gave us a list of items that we needed to fill the box with, and then also the big twist, I've got to make DIYs with everything in here, including chenille stems. And let me tell you, I, until maybe like a year ago, had no idea what chenille stem was. We call them pipe cleaners, so if you're confused too, that's what it is. I packed up a box and sent it to Wendy at White Sparrow Living, my fellow W name buddy. So hopefully Wendy loves what I sent her. You're definitely going to have to go check it out. I sent her a challenge item that I think might be particularly challenging, but I don't feel like it was as ruthless or mean as Kristen can be, and that's who my box came from. Kristen and Kristen K. I love Kristen to death. She's one of my favorite people. She is hilarious, but she also is like really good at picking super hard things. So there's 2 challenge items in here I have to use. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. Here is everybody that's participating, and we're just going to get into this because this box has been sitting in my craft room for at least a week now, and the last box she sent was to Courtney, and if you guys have been watching the mystery box, she sent her tampons. And underwear, I'm pretty sure. Here we go. Here's the card. I'm shocked that she sent me a card because she said in the past that she thinks cards are pointless. Whitney, Merry Christmas in October. I'm not mentally prepared yet to wrap anything in red or green. You absolutely kill anything that comes your way. Can't wait to see what you make, Kristen. Okay, well, there's no ominous like message in there, so we'll see. Number 1. Okay, this is from Hobby Lobby. Oh, cute. Oh, I also forgot that the theme here is gingerbread and candy cane lane, like sweet treats. So, you know I love me a good gingerbread craft. So this is going to be fun. Ooh, item number 2 are some round dowel pins. I believe these are from Dollar General, if I recognize. Those are cute. Okay, okay. We've got a mason jar. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon about Kristen. We will see. I will reassess my statements and maybe issue a retraction once we get through the challenge items. Let's see. This is cute. Love this. Here is a little Walmart greenery pick. This is funny. I just picked up a bunch of these. I shared them in my recent haul. Love these. So excited about that. Oh, cute. We have an actual little gingerbread ornament. Cute. Okay, Kristen. So sorry. She sent me some really cute stuff. I feel like this happened last time too. I psyched myself out for Kelly Barlow's and she was nice. Not that I'm shocked that Kelly was nice, but like I thought she was going to be really mean to me because I've been a little mean to her. Here is the cooking utensil that we had to send. So a little spatula. It's a little glittery. We had to do fabric or ribbon. Ooh, this is pretty. It's got like a little, got some green in it. Challenge item number 1. One of the challenge items had to be from our recycling, and the other one, they got to pick literally whatever. So I don't know what she did one or the other, but we'll open this one. What the heck? No girls allowed. Okay. Like, it's not terrible, but like what? We're gonna have to pull a Courtney and just like chop that up. Okay, so a Mr. Clean spray bottle. Okay. I mean, it's not tampons. It's not tampons or underwear, so I'll take that as a win. We are going to figure out some great DIYs. So stick around. Like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but here we go. Right off the bat, we are going to take on one of the challenge items head on. I am taking that No Girls Allowed sign out to my garage and using my jigsaw to carefully cut where the slash line goes, so I'm left with just a circle. Then I'm back up in my craft room with a template that will be available over my free file library if you want to make something like this, with a big and a small magnolia leaf.
I cut 25 of the small and 25 of the large, and I figured that would be a good starting point, but that was plenty for this size of wreath. You probably need closer to 40, 45 each if you're making a full-size wreath. Then I'm going to cut off the little hanger because I decided I was going to add my own hanger, and I'm going to take the bottom of these leaves and pinch them together. This is similar to the felt wreath that I made in the fall, but just a little different. Then we're going to take those large leaves and put them all around the inside and the outside, gluing them down. This is a little tedious, but overall it took me under 20 minutes to make this whole thing, so tedious but not overly time consuming. Once I glued inside outside all the way around the wreath, then it was time to go fill in gaps with the large leaves as well as the small leaves. So we're doing the same thing, glue and pinch the bottom and then fill in the gaps. You can kind of play around with it, and my goal here was just to cover up all of the black from the original item. Then I am grabbing that ribbon from Kristen to create my own hanger so I can incorporate that. And then before we finish this off, we've got to get those pipe cleaners in there. So I'm taking a red one. I am cutting 3 little pieces off of the end and gluing them together like little berries. I did that in 4 little groupings, and this turned out so cute. I had a few different ideas for that sign, and this was the one that I went with. I am so happy that I did because I really like it. This also fits perfectly on the wood sled I made in my last video, which is great. I needed something on top of there to display. I just hooked it on with some painter's tape as I looped the ribbon over the back. How great is this? And if you're interested in the sled, I will link that video for you up above and down below. Up next, we're going to grab some fabric, and we are going to start off this project with the pipe cleaners. I'm taking 6 pipe cleaners and I'm cutting them in half, and I'm going to twist them together. My goal here was to make a candy cane shape, and a couple years ago, Courtney made some really oversized ones of this, so that was kind of my inspiration to go with these. I wanted some kind of rustic candy canes for this next project. So I'm taking some of this red ticking stripe fabric. I've had this for years, but you can get similar stuff at any craft store, hobby store, fabric store. And I am wrapping it around, gluing the ends, and then because the pipe cleaners are inside, we can bend them like candy canes. I did a variety of different sizes, and then we're going to move on to the next part of this project. Now, this portion of the project was inspired by Jen over at Mother Time. I saw her do some primitive, rustic jars last year. I didn't get around to it, so this year we're going to do it. I spray painted a large formula can as well as 2 tin soup cans that I cleaned out in both black and a beige color. Then I found these files on Etsy that I printed out. They come on a sheet like this, so I didn't even have to size them, on some photo paper. The seller recommended that, and honestly, it was a great recommendation. I will link that down below, but these are so cute. I did North Pole gingerbread as well as this Mother's Tinsel Detangler, which is funny if you actually read the tag. And then I also did hot cocoa on this big Enfamil container. I'm going to Mod Podge those on there, and the photo paper worked really well with the Mod Podge as well, so I will link the brand that I have down below. You could do cardstock or regular paper, but with the Mod Podge like this, none of the ink smeared or anything, so I was really happy with that. So once everything's Mod Podged onto the can, then I wanted to try to distress it. Well, in Jen's tutorial, she used instant coffee, and I missed that little detail. I tried to use coffee grounds, didn't like it. I also tried some antique wax. Also didn't like that. And then we found a winner. So I put some Mod Podge on a plate, mixed in some ground cinnamon. This is cheap cinnamon. Please don't use fancy cinnamon for your projects. I just like this bottle to sprinkle it on. And then I am putting this all over the jar, including over the top of my little label. This is going to not only make it smell really good because it's cinnamon, but also it really gave the distressed kind of rusty old look I was going for. So it's kind of similar to the instant coffee that I saw in Mother Time's inspiration, but it kind of is more of like a rusty vibe. So once I was cooking with that, then I was like, okay, we're going to do this on my jar. We're going to do this on my can, and we're going to do it on the other can. I also experimented with putting some dry cinnamon on top, kind of patting it down, and that also gave a different texture because remember, your Mod Podge is going to dry clear, so then all of your cinnamon is going to be left sealed onto the can. Then I grabbed the spatula from Kristen because I just kept grabbing things because I was like, ooh, this would go, this would go. So I'm using these little die cuts from Hobby Lobby of this cute little vintage Santa. I Mod Podged that onto the handle of my spatula and I let that dry. Then I'm going back through with my Mod Podge cinnamon mixture over the white part because that was going to be way too stark with those old looking cans. And same thing with the handle. The handle was definitely not fitting the kind of rustic Christmas vibe. So I had some more of the fabric that I used on the candy canes. I cut little slits and ripped it, and then I used hot glue to wrap it around the handle. Once I made it to the bottom, I also tied a ribbon at the top with a little bow, and this could easily be as is, super cute, but I'm going to incorporate this with the jars. Stick with me because you're going to love this when we get to the end. It's a mega project. I just kept getting inspired. Okay, so here is our hot cocoa container when it's dry. How cute! I'm gonna make like a bunch more of these because I've got a bunch of formula cans hanging around. It was one of those things I was like, I could have a use for this later. Let's save it, and I'm so glad I did. Now we're grabbing the pick from Kristen, a couple more of the same kind that I got from Walmart, and then these are also from Walmart. I'm gonna remove this pine cone and use just this greenery as kind of the base to my arrangement. I also put a foam floral block in there that is made for silk flowers, not for like real flowers. So just FYI, I got that from Dollar Tree. Putting 3 of those bigger sprigs in there at an angle so that gives me a really good base. And then for these, I didn't need to break these 2 apart, so I popped these 2 in there to give me a little Christmas red. Then I took a third pick and I kind of chopped it up to give me some little pieces so that I could fill the front area. Then I'm taking those candy canes we made earlier and I'm going to hot glue them to some Dollar Tree bamboo skewers that I just had in my stash. Those I love to have on hand because that is what I use on the handle of my little pennant flags. So just something to keep in mind, multi-use. And I also took my Santa spatula and put it in there, just kind of like a little decorative thing, Santa kind of peeking out. That is why it needed to be distressed because that white would have stuck out like a sore thumb. I'm just popping in those candy canes kind of where there's room, working on the arrangement. And you kind of have to play with things like this until they get to where you want them. But once I did, I was so happy with this. And now we've got to finish off our 2 smaller cans. So these, I applied the label with the can upside down. So the top essentially would be like it was sealed. And I like that for a few different reasons. If you want to be able to fill those with greenery, flip it around. But here I could put a candle on top, like a faux one, like a LED. I'm going to use some more of that rustic fabric. I'm going to tie it around the top of my gingerbread can, trim it off, and then I'm also going to cut kind of a circular piece of this fabric and apply it to the top of the other jar. Now I could not tie it without using a rubber band, so I put a rubber band around the top and then I tied it with jute twine. Then I removed the rubber band. That was the easiest way to do it because I was struggling trying to tie it without the rubber band. So just tie it, then remove your rubber band, you're good to go. Then I was like, oh great, we're done with this project. Nope, not yet. I looked over and I saw the gingerbread ornament, and this was in my pile of what in the world am I going to use this for? Well, here we go. I'm going to break it apart, and I kind of did a mixture of like folding it, pulling it, and cutting it to get one of these little guys off. I trimmed it, and once I got some of these bigger chunks off, I realized I could really pop the pieces off of the back as well as popping the pieces off of the front. So I was able to get it down to just what looks like a plain cookie, but it was glittery, and that was definitely not going to go with this primitive rustic style. So I decided to cover it with Mod Podge to A, seal in the glitter, and B, give me a base, and then I added some cinnamon over the top so it really matched the vibe of the jars. Then once that was dry, well, the white is just Mod Podge, it wasn't fully dry, but I was impatient. I glued it on with hot glue to the bottom side of my label, and it was the perfect final addition. So if you are keeping score, we knocked out a ton of things in this project. But like I said, sometimes when I get going in my craft room, it is like a spiral. So we used the pick from Kristen, we used the spatula from Kristen, the ornament, and we also incorporated the chenille stems. I am going to be making a ton more of these. I love them so much. I will link all the details of the files and everything down below, as well as Jen's video if you want to go check it out. She made a ton of other things and her stuff is so cute. So I was definitely inspired by that. Up next, we're grabbing that mason jar sign from the box and we are going to give it a base coat of territorial beige. Now, if you're paying attention, I flipped it over because I wanted the flat side, and that is what I'm painting. Then while that's drying, I am taking some like caramely color felt that I just had on hand, and I'm doubling it up to cut 2 ear shapes. They kind of look like leaves a little bit, but you want the flat at the bottom. Then I'm going to use some darker brown felt, and I'm going to cut the same shape but smaller so it fits inside of the caramel color ones. Then we're going to glue them together, and our ears are ready to go. Then I cut an oval shape out of the caramel color and an oval shape out of some red. And then I am taking the must-use little pipe cleaners, wrapping them around this Sharpie marker, and then pulling it, and it looks like a spring when you pull it. So that is exactly what I was looking for. Then we're going to start to assemble. So I'm going to glue this kind of peanut shape looking piece of felt down, and then I'm going to do the red. You could easily paint this, but I had felt sitting on the table from other projects, so I was like, let's just roll with that. And I was going to make the ears out of felt anyway. I'm going to pinch the bottom of these just like we did with the leaves from the wreath earlier, and let those kind of cool and set up. Then I'm taking a paint marker. I am going to draw the face on my cute little reindeer. I'm going to draw this line down the center and use a little bit of paint to create a little bit of a highlight reflection on the nose. Then I'm using some more makeup brushes made for eye makeup to add some eyelashes. We're going to tie on some of that fabric that we used in the Rustic can project, that last one. And then I decided to cut those antlers in half and twist them together just because they were a little too tall. Then I'm going to use the same pick that Kristen sent, so wherever you want to tally it, this project or the one before, forever it to count, I'm going to grab that clip off the bottom because it's a tree clip, and we're going to put that to the side. We're not getting rid of that. Then I am trimming off some of that greenery, and I'm going to create a few different groupings. I want a large grouping for across the head, and then I also want two smaller groupings to go between the antlers and the ears. So I am just putting together what I think looks good. I'm going to tie it together with some jute twine to gather it, because then if I don't like it, it's a lot easier to rework than it is if I glue it down and have to pull it up. Then once I have everything kind of done as a dry fit layout, I am going to go back through with hot glue and hook everything down. So I did antlers, then greenery, then ears, then I also added the greenery in the front. I really wanted to cover up where I wrapped the greenery and where the hot glue was, so I just took an extra piece of felt and I glued that right over the top. Then I thought my cute little reindeer needed a bow to kind of cover up that felt, so I took some more of that fabric. I just created like a little loop, added some bottom little tails to it, tied it up, and glued it on the head. Then my last step here was to add some lines around the outside as well as some white to the eyes to kind of bring it alive. And the front of my reindeer was done, but it's not completely done yet. Remember when I said we were going to keep that clip? We're going to hot glue it to the back, and then we're going to grab those really cute Christmas cards that Kristen sent from Hobby Lobby. I'm pulling out the Christmas light ones as well as the poinsettias, and I'm keeping the rest for later. Who knows, maybe the next person in the mystery box will get one of these in their box for me as a little note, or I'll just use them for Christmas because they're so cute. And on these, I am pulling them apart so I just have a square instead of a folded card, and I'm writing different activities that we can do kind of as a holiday season bucket list. I'm putting them in the envelopes, and I'm going to number them, and I'm going to clip them on the back of the sign. Then throughout the season, we can put those behind, and the boys can go grab the envelope if we need an activity. If we're like, we don't know what we want to do, but we want to do something fun, they can grab it, open it, and we could do Christmas movies, Christmas crafts, baking, go look at the Christmas lights. So many different options, and it goes perfectly with my Santa from my Christmas wood build video. So I've got a full template for that if you want to check it out, and I love the idea of this. I could redo them every year, kind of put whatever I want back there, and I numbered them so I knew what was going on. So then that way I know what I'm putting behind the sign so that I know what they're picking and what we're going to do that night. Up next, let's grab that Mr. Clean container, my challenge item from Kristen, and some of these choppers that I use for PVC pipe. I was like, how am I going to cut the top off of this? Because it's pretty solid plastic. Well, I had to get creative. I did a mixture of this. I tried some like plier things. I tried some scissors. I just did a bunch of different things. Basically, just anything I could do to get it chipped off so that I could get a top to add this ornament that's sitting behind it. I finally got to a place where it was where I wanted it, and I used some hot glue to add the ornament upside down on top. Once it was glued, I spray painted it with this warm caramel, and I had a little bit of a Murphy's Law day. Ah! Son of a nutcracker. Nonetheless, we persisted, we pressed on. So here it is, painted with 2 coats of that spray paint, and I used my drill up in my craft room to drill 2 holes on either side and 2 holes on the bottom. Now, you could probably see where we're going with this, but I promise you it's not going to turn out what you think. I think it's going to be even better. So I am taking this jute twine with a dowel needle and running a long piece through the bottom as well as the top for arms and legs. Then I'm going to tie a knot for each arm and each leg, so then that way it's not going to get sucked back in and one arm's going to be crazy long. I just didn't know how else to have the jute twine kind of have a knot on the inside because I had already glued the top down. So this worked out perfect. Tie the knots and it will not move on you. Then I grabbed a couple extra of these really inexpensive garlands from Walmart in their Christmas section because they are great for DIYs as well as decorating. I'm just going to cut the internal string and then I'm going to do 3 on each arm and 5 for each leg. I did red, white, red, red, white, red, and you're going to complete that for the legs as well. If you have an issue with pulling the dowel needle through the felt ball, I like to use pliers. Just make sure you're pulling it away from you. Do not pull it towards you. Safety. PSA. Once I have my arms and legs, I created a template for myself, which will also be over in my free file library, with these mittens and some shoes. I'm cutting out 4 of each, so 2 for each hand, 2 for each boot. And I'm going to use a blanket stitch like I use all the time to use this red embroidery floss and go all the way around. Now, originally I was going to do white, but I didn't have any white, and I think the red turned out fine. But if you feel so compelled to make this too, you could also use white, or you could glue them as well. Then I had a ton of felt scraps between this project, one coming up, and the greenery from the wreath before. So I just use that to stuff them. You're going to go all the way around until you've got a little opening, stuff it, and then finish with the blanket stitch and tie it off. I'm going to complete that with all 4 pieces. So 2 gloves, 2 shoes, stuff them, make sure they're all blanket stitched all the way around the outside. And then I decided that it needed some extra pizzazz. Now, originally I was going to put some rickrack on it, and then I was like, no, you have to use the chenille stems. So I thought I could create essentially a little bit of a candy cane effect on the borders, or the trim, if you will, of the mittens and the boots. So I created this little wavy shape similar to rickrack, and I went just up and over and down, up, over and down, and created a little candy cane motif while hooking this to the boot. Once I made it all the way across, I trimmed it down so it was just even with either side, and I did that on all 4 pieces. Then to hook them to my little gingerbread man, I put my dowel needle back on the end of that long jute twine piece, and I fed it through the back of the boot or the mitten, and then did a double knot to make sure it wasn't going to move on me. Then I grabbed some scrap of that red ticking stripe fabric and just tied it around the neck to cover up where that glue was at, where everything hooked together. Then the last thing my little gingerbread guy needed was a face. So I took a half bead, painted it red, and then did what I always do, pulled up some inspo on Pinterest and got to work. I combined a few different options and used my little paint brush, makeup brushes, and I just had a blast with this. You can get creative. And is it the best face I ever drew? No, but he is still so cute. I am so happy with how he turned out. He is so cute with the way his legs hang off and the mittens and everything. I was really worried, I'm not going to lie, about having to do pipe cleaners with everything, but thank you, Christina, because it was a very good challenge and it made me really think outside the box. And I don't think I would have ever done this as an embellishment, but now I might in the future. For this next project, we're grabbing those dowel pins from Kristen, as well as this wood peg dowel pack from Dollar Tree. You only need the small one from the Dollar Tree pack, and then I am doing 4 of these dowel pins. Now, to get the center with the Early American stain, I took my rag, put it up the center, and then kind of rubbed it, and that's how you were able to cover it. We're going to make 2 of these, so you only need 3 pieces for what I'm making. We're going to take the small one and cut out some felt. I'm just using this tan color, and I'm creating a baby swaddle for baby Jesus. I am going to take this piece, wrap it up, and use some hot glue to create the swaddle. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just want the big pieces glued down. And then when you have everything where you want it, I'm tying the center with jute twine. Next is Joseph with some dark brown felt. I cut a piece a little bit longer than that clothespin, so then that way I could do a hem at the top. So I put some glue down the center, glued it down, and made sure that it was the right width so it wasn't too much extra fabric in the front. Then I glued the piece of wood onto the felt, wrapped it around, tied the neck, and then I also used a little bit of glue to take essentially the lapels of the cloak and pull it down so it looked more realistic. It looked a little vampire-y to me, which is like obviously not the vibe we're going for, so that's why we glued it down. And then we're grabbing our other one, some light blue felt, and we are going to do the hem of this one forward instead of backwards because it's more of like a hood. So then I'm going to put the little dowel pin in there, pull it over the top, glue the 2 sides down, and then we are going to take those outer pieces and pull them forward and down and glue them down, and then tie that off with some more jute. Then we're grabbing our pipe cleaners, and I have these ornaments from Hobby Lobby. I decided to forego the back hanger that they had and use the pipe cleaner as a hanger. What I like to do when I'm gluing stuff down like this is take a little scrap piece of felt to help get it pushed down and also just to kind of make it look a little more finished. Then I'm going to take some hot glue, glue down Joseph, Mary, and then use the 2 of them to anchor the little baby swaddle. And then I use this distress ink around the outside as well as on that bright, stark white pipe cleaner as the hanger. And these were good to go. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I actually saw an Etsy ad for some of these a little bit ago. When I opened the box, I was like, bingo, we're making some of those. They also are the perfect companion to my scrap wood churches that I made in my wood video. So I know I've mentioned a ton of those, but these were just fresh out. And I was like, these all work together really well. Definitely check that video out, and this ornament is a quick and easy one to make, but it turns out so beautiful. So I have this adorable fat quarter that I actually got, I think for like $1 or $2 at a local quilt shop. I got it during the summer, so it was like during an off season. But how stinking cute are these Santas? So I thought I could take this item from Kristen, and then I also thought maybe for this hanger up here, I could create a bow. So I'm going to break out my sewing machine and I'm going to try this. I always follow patterns. I don't wing it. I don't feel comfortable yet to wing it, but I think this would be cute. So we're going to try to make little pockets on here. Let's see how it goes. So first up, I am measuring everything. I realized I needed about 8 inches wide, and you'll see me working with this little peppermint, but we had to scrap that because my sewing was a little rough and my little pockets were not big enough. Spoiler alert. But it's still going to be cute. Stick with me. I promise you're still going to like it at the end. I'm cutting pieces that are 16 inches wide, 2 inches tall, and then I'm also following a TikTok tutorial on making a bow. Now, I am still not in a place where I feel like I can give you guys full tutorials, so I will link that down below. The girl that I watched, it was easy to make. And then I'm going to take some fusible fleece and add it to the back of my strips for my pockets and then trim it down just because I wanted the pockets to have a little bit more oomph to them. So then it was time to wing it, and like I said, I haven't wung it a lot before. Like, I can wing it with my Cricut machine, I can wing it with wood. Sewing is not necessarily in my wing it wheelhouse quite yet, but as you can see, there's an issue. We pull out the seam ripper a lot, and, you know, we try. So I finally was getting the hang of it. What I did is I ended up sewing them down face down and then folding them up to create essentially like a little hem or a seam. So then that way the raw edge wasn't out. And for the top and 2 sides, I did a zigzag stitch to kind of faux serge them. I don't know if that's right. If you've been sewing for years, you're probably like, oh my goodness, sister. But you know, we are supportive here. We are learning. And so I ended up really just making headway. Then when I got to where I wanted, I was like, okay, that bottom point isn't going to do anything for me. It was throwing me off. So I ended up just sewing that back. And then I trimmed the end. And then I was like, okay, the white on the outside is a little stark. I also need to cover up where the seams don't match, you know, so we're going to wing it again. So I cut the same fabric that I'm using for the bow, and I did some like faux bias binding. Again, this is not something that I'm good at. I watched a tutorial and I kind of wung it. It's probably not the right way to do it, but it worked for me. So, you know, we're learning as we go. I feel like I need that on a shirt. We're learning. We learn and we don't judge, but that is what it is here. So I went around the outside, did all of that, flipped it over, and finished the binding. And I was like, hey, this is looking pretty good. So then my last step was to go through and sew my bow. Again, I will link that tutorial down below. And then it was time to assemble. So I didn't like the little like kind of waxy cord that they had on there originally, so I used some baker's twine. I cut a piece and then I cut it in half, looped it around the edges, and tied it at the top. And then I took my bow, glued it, like I hooked it, the centerpiece, with glue, and then I glued the center of the bow to the knot on the top of my hanger, and then I took another dab of glue and put it on either side, so it looked like it was being hung by the bow, but really it's the baker's twine. Then, like I said, I was like, ooh, that peppermint's not going to fit. So I ended up taking some more pipe cleaners, wrapping it with that same fabric that I'm using for the bow and the outside, like the binding. And I made a little candy cane that is going to be the marker of the days. I was like, woohoo, this is not terrible for me winging it. I was pretty happy. Like, are the lines straight? No, but, you know, I'm really proud of myself. So then I just cut some numbers, 1 through 25. I started in the bottom corner, and we're going to do a little Christmas countdown. Once I applied those, I am so happy with this. Again, it's not perfect. I've only been sewing for a few months, but sewing brings me so much joy. And I know this truly isn't a tutorial for this last project, but I'm proud of this, and I wanted to share it with my craft buddies. So I hope you enjoyed watching me stumble through it, but I'm so excited for this. Will be perfect. Finn can take it out and move it. Henry will probably try to eat it, which we won't give it to him because he's 10 months old and we don't want him eating pipe cleaners, but his brother can help him. We'll count down to Christmas. It'll be nostalgic. I love it.
All right, craft buddies, what did you think? Did you think I was going to go that direction with these items? Obviously, I am filming this but way before I make these, so I have faith in myself. I'm hoping you loved it too. As always, let me know down in the comments which project was your favorite. I love hearing from you guys. Also, up next for you is Wendy's video over at White Sparrow Living. There's also going to be a full playlist that goes in order so you can see what I sent to Wendy, what Wendy sent to her person, all the way back around to what Kristen got, and then she sent to me. So be sure to check out that full playlist. A huge thank you to Kristen for this awesome box. Thank you to Courtney for always hosting a really fun event that I'm so proud to be a part of. And also, thank you to Christina for this challenge. Those chenille stems, I have a feeling they're going to be all over my craft room. Hopefully I did a great job. Future Whitney. Good luck. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're new so you don't miss a future video, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!